I'm sitting in the 2025 Toyota GR Corolla, and we've only had the GR Corolla for not very many years. And already for the 2025 model year, we're seeing a ton of new changes. And I'm not just talking about this new 8-speed automatic transmission, which is phenomenal, by the way, but there's also cosmetic changes, power changes, suspension changes, and also the logic in this all-wheel drive system. Now, what hasn't changed? The interior is more or less the same. You still get this 12.3-inch fully digital instrument cluster. You still get this 8-inch infotainment touchscreen with wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. The interior is what you'd expect out of a Corolla. It looks like a $25,000 interior packaged in a $50,000 car. And that's because the GR Corolla is like the old school Mitsubishi Evo 8 or Evo 9 or the Subaru WRX STI, where they're really budget cars, but they have really impressive powertrains. And this GR Corolla is done in the same spirit. Also, what hasn't changed is the 1.6-liter turbo 3-cylinder engine. It still makes 300 horsepower, but the torque has been upped to 295, so that's 22 pound-feet extra, and they've achieved that by increasing the boost pressure out of the turbo. Outside the car, what hasn't changed? You still get the same wheels and tires, you still get the same awesome braking performance. Up front, you have 4-piston calipers and 14-inch floating rotors. For the rear, you get 11.7-inch rotors and 2-piston calipers. For the front, you can see that there's some slight cosmetic changes. The front bumper looks more like the other Corollas at this point, whereas the previous GR Corolla, it has kind of a more squarish presentation, but you'll see that some of the cooling ports have slightly changed, and that's because of all of the new cooling element that you could find in this car. Now, with this 8-speed automatic transmission, they've also provided an ATF, or an automatic transmission fluid cooler. They've also added a sub-radiator on the right side of the car, and if you look underneath, there's also better cooling for the transfer case, and again, just for better heat management for when you're taking this on the track. As for the 8-speed automatic transmission, this feels a lot like a dual clutch transmission. It doesn't have the weird dual clutch hesitation that you get in slow speed situations, like accelerating from a dead stop. This one just feels like a normal automatic transmission, but when you're changing gears, very quick shifting, just like a dual clutch transmission. And I love how the transmission logic is very intuitive as well. When you're hard on the brakes, it will proactively change to a lower gear just so that you're in the right power band upon corner exit. What's also changed is the logic behind the all-wheel drive system. Now, previously you could change between front bias to rear bias and track mode, which is 50-50 split. For the front bias, you get a 60-40 split, and for the rear bias, you get a 30-70 split. Now you have normal, gravel, and track. And in normal mode, you get the 60-40 split. In gravel mode, that has changed to a 50-50 split. And then now when you go into track mode, that has more of a dynamic setting, so it can change between 60-40 to 50-50 and to 30-70. In this case, the computer will make the best judgment depending on different sensors around the car, like how much brake pressure you're applying, how much lateral and longitudinal G changes there are. And lastly, there's a bunch of suspension changes. The shock absorbers now have a rebound spring, and that's to improve cornering stability. The rear suspension has undergone pretty significant changes. The trailing arm mounting point has been increased by 30 millimeters, and that's to improve squatting under hard acceleration. And they've also changed the rear springs from a single coil spring to a 2-stage or a progressive rate spring. So basically, I think they're trying to make the rear end a bit more compliant, changing the balance of the car so that it is just faster around the track. And as for the normal driving experience, just basic highway roads and back roads, this thing has been pretty spectacular. It does feel like a sports car because it's very stiff, especially in the back. This thing also has the optional brace bar. It's averaging so far 25.8 miles per gallon. Really impressive for a 300 horsepower car, and that's what you get out of a really tiny 1.6 liter 3-cylinder engine. It's not the best sounding car. It sounds a lot like a diesel when you're at the low end, and it has somewhat of a decent grunt when you're really stepping on it, but generally it's not a pleasant sounding car. Now, as for the price, this thing starts at $45,515. This one specifically because it has the 8-speed automatic transmission. That's $2,000 extra. So the base MSRP for an automatic is $47,515. Tack on delivery for this specific one, with the brace bar and some mats and whatnot, this dials in at $50,144. It is not a cheap car. Now, can you find faster cars at this price point? Absolutely. There's a lot of options. You have the GTI, you have the Elantra N, you also have the Mustang EcoBoost. You could probably even get a Mustang GT, although very bare bones at that point. And also you can't forget the Nissan Z as well. You could get the Nissan Z Sport for about $42,000, and that has a 400 horsepower V6 twin turbo. But if you're looking for a hatchback with a turbo and all-wheel drive, you really only have the Subaru WRX and the Mazda 3 hatchback turbo. I think this is the most fun because, this is just livelier, the engine is just so peppy, and this automatic transmission is it is so freaking good. I still prefer the 6-speed manual transmission, of course, just because it's more fun and engaging, but I got a feeling they're going to sell a lot more now because the automatic is available. But anyway, I want to thank you so much for watching all the way up to this point. If you want to see the review of the 6-speed manual version, the 2023 model year, please check out this video review over here. I want to thank you guys so much for watching all the way till the end, and I'll catch you in the next one.